real helpful. I learned some stuff that I didn't know throughout the school year. I think I was more engaged with the teachers also, to be able to see them. And even if I had answers, like their questions, I was able to ask also.
Right.
It's different from trying to be a parent and a teacher. So I commend the teachers who are parents.
Absolutely.
Because, baby, this is different for me. It's very different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I commend you guys for being here. And again, I'm appreciative that our families have stayed so engaged through it all, because this has been tough for everybody. And my staff, I have to consider that with the staff as well, as they have families. Some of them have small children, newborns, infants, college kids, high school graduates that can't technically graduate. So it's just been an ultimate impact to everybody. And so I have to keep myself reminded of that as I'm interacting with them, as well as interacting with you guys, as well as interacting with the community, trying to make sure we still are a service for this community with food and helping folks with testing, just trying to advocate. So it's been a different lift, most definitely. But I think when we are given life lessons, we need to learn from them.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, okay, reflecting as a leader, what can I do differently for our building to make it more conducive? Are there other things that we can consider? So like some considerations for me are, we are going to institute whole school at least 2 days a week where it's totally virtual learning in-house, where our teachers have to use tech tools so that they can get even better at it, and our kids are exposed to it so it's not such a shock if this ever happening. And so no worksheet Wednesdays and techie Tuesdays.
Okay.
And those being fun ways for kids to engage, but also that's a way for us to expose them to the tools if we ever have to do this again, and it's not such a shock for everybody. And if we start that from the beginning for parents, then they're in that moment and they know how to use Microsoft Teams. They know how to use like any possible app or situation that we could have it nearby. It won't be such a shock for all. So I'm just thinking differently. What's going to be different? I mean, okay. Thinking through social distancing, thinking through something as simple as using a water fountain, and how that no longer will be something that we can just consider kids doing and walking up to. So how do we, and what do I do for little people who like to touch, right?
Right.
So, but we're going to think it through and problem solve and make sure that we do what's best for kids and keep every child safe. But it is definitely a big lift for us as a school and as a community. But as a world, really, this is the world issue.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the new normal. That's just me. That's just how I'm thinking. So it is going to be different from getting the kids to transition, especially like you said, the little ones, because I myself have a child who still likes to touch on things, who doesn't understand why, if he does go outside, he has to wear a mask, and why he can't, touch things. So it's very different. But I'm all for it. I'm all for how we're going to keep the kids safe during the next school year. If this is going to be something that's going to be the normal, then I'm all for that too.
Looking at companies and possibly thinking about ways to get a cool Brookview mask made for all the kids, so that if it's something we have to do and it becomes our new normal, that it at least is something still kid for, like maybe paw prints or our panda, right. Like make it so the kids don't feel scared and that school still feels safe. Right. And then we have to think through what this looks like. So I'm gonna be probably calling on you guys again throughout the summer too, to kind of get parent input about how you're feeling and engaging the parent tempo, like temperature, because I need to be able to kind of know how parents are feeling about a reopening and what that will look like as I communicate out to the district and kind of problem solve through them. And so I see a couple of people who joined us since then. If you could, make sure you sign in the chat. There's a link that's been dropped, and also drop your first and last name as well as your student's name, so that we know who we're speaking to, and we can keep constant communication and share out as more information comes. And so I'm going to honor you guys this time. Because I am sharing my screen, I won't be able to see the chat, but Ms. Freeman, our parent liaison, who's been helping me blow you guys up, is also on the meeting. So you'll drop questions to the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask me as we come along. but I kind of just wanted to touch bases with you, and kind of touch and give you a heads up about what's to come in kindergarten, because it looks different from pre-K to kindergarten. It definitely looks different. And talking about that structure and what that transition looks like. All right, so I'm going to kick us off and get us started with the PowerPoint. So thank you guys for coming to our kindergarten roundup, and getting your pre-K child ready for kindergarten is a huge move for you. First and foremost, I'm going to tell you what we're going to go through today. Our agenda is we're going to talk a little bit about the census. We're going to talk about online registration, and then we're going to dig into what to expect in kindergarten. Everything from our schedules to the curriculum expectations, homework, like the big difference from pre-K to kinder that you need to be aware of, and ways that you can engage with your child at home. So I want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for being here. Number one, I have 17 parents here in the middle of the day, and I appreciate the flexibility with that. I'm hoping more will even join us. Thank you, because I know that this is not these are unprecedented times, and it's just been not normal for anyone. But in this, we're pressing through, and the fact that you're here means you're fully engaged and you are concerned and you are willing to be involved to continue your child's growth. So again, kudos to you. Thank you for that. All right, a couple of things. If you came to my parent meeting last week, you kind of got this spiel, but I'm doing it again for those who didn't make it last week. The census is so important for our school, and a lot of families don't realize that. If you have not done your census 2020, I really need you to do so. You can do that online at my2020census.gov, or you can call the 1-844 number posted on this page, and we will share this PowerPoint presentation after the meeting is over. But the reason why the census matters so much is our numbers need to be counted. So I don't know if you guys realize, but our funding for our school is based on the numbers. So Census 2020 ensures our funding for school lunch programs, our Head Start, our special ed, our classroom technology, and even the repairs to get the building, the streets, the roads. I just had our parking lot painted. Like, that's how that money is funded. That's what we use it for, to make school improvements. So the census matters, and I really need your help with that. So if you haven't done so, please do so. Let your voice be counted. Please do your census for your home. All right, the other thing is registration. If you have a future pre-K-er, even though you know you're here for kindergarten roundup, but if you have another little one that's coming, we still have slots. But also, we need to make sure that you guys are registered online. Make sure you upload all your documents, including your proof of residency. So remember, you need 2 proof of residence. That's a lease or a utility bill. And if you know families that are coming to Brookview, tell them online registration is open. We need to get our pre-K slots filled, most definitely. And then our kindergarten, we need our kids registered. So make sure that you do that. So the required documentation are, again, the 2 proof of residence, your birth certificate, social security card, your immunization, which is your ear, eye, and dental form. And then if you're pre-K only, don't forget you have to have either your food stamp card or that Medicaid card for pre-K only. So if you have an upcoming pre-K-er, keep that in mind. And for my kindergarten, make sure that you give us those updated lease and utility bills. Any questions, guys? And again, just unmute yourself along the way if you have questions, or if it's in the chat, Ms. Freeman will read it out because I can't see it, and I'll respond accordingly.
Ms. Wallace, I got a question.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So we had recently moved. I don't know if we in the district or not. Like, we're not far from the school, but how are they? The schools going about like switching schools if they have to?
So if you're out of zone, you will have to withdraw your child and register at the other school, which is all online. So that's actually a lot more convenient. And what the other school would do is they send us once you're withdrawn here, the other school sends a records request and we could send it over for you, so you don't have to worry about that part. hopefully you won't have to, and you'll still stay at Brookview, because I don't need to lose any of my families. I need you guys, and you're my families. But
so how would I know?
After this meeting, stay online, and I'll look up your address.
Okay.
And I can tell you if you're zoned for us or if you're zoned for another school.
Okay, because like we literally moved down the street, so I don't know if that's different. So
okay, and as soon as this meeting ends, I'll look it up for you, and we'll just see.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Now, so our returning students, if your pre-K is just going to go over to kindergarten, if you're having any complications with uploading any of those documents, here are the things that you can do to get that resolved. You can send it in a regular email and attach it as a form to Ms. Fornes, and she can upload it for you. Just make sure that you have your application number and your student name on there. Or you can contact Ms. Fornes anyway. That's our data clerk. Any questions regarding returning, zoning, anything related to enrollment, Ms. Fornes is your touch point. And so her email address is listed here at fornesj@fultonschools.org. Only new incoming students going to pre-K, kindergarten through 5th grade need to register. So if you're already a pre-K-er, your kid doesn't have to register, but you do have to update those lease agreements. That proof of residency has to be updated. So for your other children, if you have kids that go here, they're students that are currently attending Brookview, and we're still in our attendance zone and no movement, they'll just be rolled over automatically and register for the upcoming grade. Any questions here, guys?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you said if they already in pre-K and they're going to kindergarten, we just have to upload the lease and the utility bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what about if I have a 3rd grader going to 4th? Would I have to do the same?
Yep, you can upload them, but you can upload them at one time for both kids.
Okay, so for the kindergartner, you need an updated what is it? The dental?
The ear, eye, and dental?
Yeah.
I have to find out from Ms. Fornes. She's not here. I can only have 10 people in the building at one time. But what we could do, you can email her directly. If it's missing or if she needs updates, she's been sending emails out to families telling them missing documentation that they will need. So if you haven't gotten one so far, you might still be up to date. But I can check for you. So drop that in the chat for me, and then I'll verify with her and have her to reach out to you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions there, guys?
Yes, I got a question.
Sure.
If even though we have the information there, do we still have to send it again?
As far as which part?
For the kindergarten.
Nope. All you have to do is just to update if your lease, because you know how leases expire, we have to keep updated proof of residency. The only thing we need re-uploaded for the kindergarten, if they already have been here for pre-K, is just the updated lease agreement. That's it.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. So again, we opened up pre-K registration for the 6th and the 7th. Our pre-K lottery, we held it, and I still have slots, which is rare. I usually have a waiting list for pre-K. So that means that some people have not registered their upcoming. Or so if you have any friends or families, I need your help with this. If they need to get their kid in pre-K, tell them to go ahead and register now so that they can get a slot. Because now what I'm worried about is getting slammed and having this ridiculous waiting list in August. So I would much rather have our slots filled for pre-K and not have to stress or worry about that. So spread the word. Tell them to go ahead and try to get in for pre-K. Also, for you guys, as you're transitioning now from pre-K to kindergarten, parents, make sure that we have your updated parent contact information. So that's your email addresses, your phone numbers, your any emergency contacts. Like if you've had changes in some situations, we've had some families that are going through ugly divorces and things of that nature, and now they don't want the other parent involved, or they remove contacts. You have to update it, but you guys update it on your own at Infinite Campus. So you have to log into your parent portal and go into the campus portal underneath there, and you'll click on the census leak, and that's where you can change all your personal information. And if you need help with that, Ms. Fornes says she'd be more than happy to walk anyone through that process. over the phone and help everyone kind of get it done, because we don't want that to be a holdup for you, and we don't want to have any issues with that in the fall. So now let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the structure of kindergarten, because it is a big, big difference from pre-K to kindergarten. And I just want to be very transparent about that. So when we talk about the day in the life of a Brookview kindergartner, the first thing that you need to know is that our day starts off with breakfast like it does for pre-K, where they go through the line and get their little breakfast. But kindergartners walk through the line like big kids on their own. Of course, we have staff that are in place that will help them with that. And then they go to their classrooms. And then when they go into their classrooms, it's different now when it comes to the setup. So pre-K does stations, but our literacy block and our math block are station driven, 15 minutes of whole group, and then they break off into small group rotations. One rotation is independent on the technology station, where they will be working on iReady. The other station is teacher-led, and the other station will be paraprofessional-led, where they typically work on sight words, they work on phonemic awareness, and reading fluency and comprehension. During the reading block and in math, it might be fact fluency, as well as reviewing numeracy skills. The kids log in on their own. So we teach our kindergartners how to log into their Launchpad or their class link. They have their own lunch number. We've made it pretty easy for kindergarten, where they can scan their barcodes to get in, but they will learn their lunch number and be able to punch it in on their own like big kids. Of course, lunch and cafeteria expectations. So pre-K paras typically stay with their with their classes during lunch. Kindergarten is different. It could be a different teacher that's monitoring them during lunch, so that the kindergarten paras can have their lunch break. They're big kids, so they start following big kid rules. And in kindergarten, all of our babies have specials. Specials is they have PE, art, music, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, and then also media, where they go to the library for their services and can check out books. So now they have a special schedule, and that'll happen every day for them, where they go to a different special. So they don't just have their homeroom teacher and their teacher's assistant. They'll have additional teachers that give them grades for those special areas. The biggest thing that a lot of my pre-K parents have the biggest transition issue is there are no more naps. So in pre-K, they nap. But in kindergarten, we are working all day long. So we have to get your little ones now in the routine of cutting back on those daytime naps, because that does not happen in the kindergarten day. Again, sometimes we have kids that are still in pre-K that struggle with being potty trained and having restroom issues. The expectation at kindergarten, we're definitely potty trained, and we want them to be able to tie their own shoes. So start working on those skills. And start practicing, and the teachers will help with that too. But we are teaching independence and independent little learners at this point, because our kindergartners leave reading. All right, so here's an example of an actual teacher schedule, and I just took Ms. DeJuice's schedule from the year. And let's take a look at the morning meeting. They start off at 7:15. And they go through their morning routine, which is their little morning meeting. They go through their little expectations for the day. They talk about how a character trait skill, and then they go into RTI. RTI is response to intervention. So as in kindergarten, there's a set RTI time from 7:55 to 8:25, where the teachers will work with certain students who, based on assessments we've given, have academic deficits in the areas of reading or math, and they do targeted interventions for those children. Now, while they're working with those intervention groups, the other students may be engaged in independent work digitally. They could be online doing iReady, or they could be doing independent tasks, but essentially, this time is dedicated for targeted interventions for children. Then they would go into their whole group math instruction. And that is, they start off with a 15-minute whole group mini lesson, and then they break into stations. There's a teacher-led station that's focusing on the new skill and mathematical computation strategies. Then they rotate to independent math fluency station. They're already technology, so they're on the computers already on their own. And they may go to their paraprofessional station to work on mathematical reasoning. They then go into shared reading and modeled reading, where the teacher will do a read aloud, model reading strategies, and then begin teaching them those phonological awareness, the phonics. They do have recess at kindergarten. It's 15 minutes. Their lunch is 30 minutes. They also have writing. So your kids should be learning to write real sentences and paragraphs beginning in kindergarten. Guided reading is the same format as math, where they start off with a whole group and then break into small groups and get targeted instruction and skill-based instruction at those stations, as well as strategies. So they rotate from a teacher station who's doing the guided reading at their independent reading levels. So their kids are grouped based on their data, and they're grouped with kids with similar performance, and they are able to be at the table with the teacher reading text at their reading level. And she begins, or the teacher begins, those reading strategies and corrective strategies, showing them how to chunk those words and decode. And then the next station will be technology with iReady again. And then there's a paraprofessional station where they might hone in on sight words. They might hone in on decoding, and that's like sounding out and blending words. And then they might have an independent writing task or their own little center where they're working on tasks independently to work. So it's a big difference from pre-K to kindergarten in the student independence. They then go to social studies and science. And they alternate at our school. We do units. So they might do a social study unit for 2 to 3 weeks and then switch to a science unit for 2 to 3 weeks so that they can teach those units in depth in comparison to breaking it up and only doing 15 minutes of social studies and 15 minutes of science. And they do get grades in all core content areas. So reading, language arts, math, social studies, and science. And at 2:40 to 2:50, the last 10 minutes of the day before we start dismissal, everybody does dear time. That's drop everything and read. And that's when we allow kids to self-select books and read at their independent instructional time. And so our kindergartners will begin to read rather quickly, and you'll see some real growth with them. So be ready. And what that means is make sure you have a real library. Start collecting books and things that are for early learning and early readers. And we're going to post a summer reading book list on our website so that you can have ideas about the kind of text that you can have at home. So are there any questions related to like that's the run of the day for a kindergartner? All right, so curriculum expectations. So when we're talking about literacy and math skills, there are some core skills you can be working on right now that will put your kid ahead of the game when coming into kindergarten. Some of the biggest literacy skills that run fluidly throughout all the standards that the kids have to master by the end of the year are listed right here. So I'm just going to highlight a few, and then you guys kind of read over. And again, we'll be sharing this PowerPoint via Class Dojo with you, and you'll have access to it. But the biggest thing that you need to know is those literacy skills, those reading, those common high frequency sight words. That's sight words. That's automaticity. So that means those kids need to recognize those words by sight within 3 seconds. You can start working on sight words now and making sure your kids know all of the sight words that they should know. So the first 100 words, start working on that now. Practicing and playing a game with them. Show the word, 3 seconds or less. Make it a game where they have to beat the clock. And if they can say the word, then they get the point. But you want to encourage them to do sight words and go ahead and work on that. Also, work on those letter sounds. So a lot of kids can say their alphabet and they can tell you letters, but they can't tell them when we mix them up. So if you have magnetic letters at home, you can start mixing up those letters you can start laying them on the table and having them identify the letter. When they identify the letter, then say, okay, now what sound does that letter make? Because those are the beginning foundational skills, because we're going to start teaching them how to do syllables and then also how to blend syllables to make words. Make sure that they are writing with upper and lowercase, and make sure that you are modeling reading from left to right. So I don't know if you've ever seen pre-Kers pretend to be reading and the book's upside down. So it's one of those things where you want to kind of start modeling those expectations. Now for math has a lot more standards than literacy, but literacy is a lot more difficult to grasp. But if you get your kids to be able to count to 100 by ones and tens, that's a huge lift. Now, not just rote memorization where they can just say it, they should be able to identify those numbers as well. So if we put out a card that says 19, a kid should be able to read it and say, that's 19. And then you say, now show me 19 using these pennies on the table. They should be able to count out those 19. We want our kids to be able, and that's considered counting using one-to-one correspondence. They need to be able to write those numbers from 0 to 20. We do begin teaching 2D shapes, two-dimensional shapes, and 3D shapes. So we know most of our kids know triangle, circle, square. So now you need to start introducing cubes, rectangular prisms, because we're going to start introducing spheres instead of the flat circle to the 3D shapes too. And now we're starting to add. So we're putting things together and we're using the terminology. So our kids might be able to say, there were three dogs at the pond and then 2 more dogs joined them, and they can count them and say, well, there are 5 dogs there. Now we need to use the vocabulary and the language of the standards. So how many animals were there in all? What was the total number? And make sure that they understand that vocabulary explicitly as it aligns to addition and subtraction. So when we're talking about subtracting, we're talking about taking apart from, and that answer should get smaller. So these are some things that I want you to start honing in on now with your children so that they come in with less gaps and we can really build upon and push the needle with the work. Any questions right here with literacy and math? All right. Now science and social studies. The biggest concepts for science is they are doing a lot of sorting. And when I say sorting, we are sorting objects based on physical attributes. So they need to be able to sort them by size, by color, by shape, by weight, and start using the words and language as it relates to that. We start giving them little investigations where they have to do like little investigation. Is it flat? Is it round? How do you know? How don't you know? So make sure they can consider that between shapes and then objects in motion. We talk a lot about day and night and the difference between day and night, and then the physical attributes of rocks and soil. Social studies is a lot of fun with kindergarten because they start learning about holidays, national holidays, and what a holiday means. So a lot of times our little people know Christmas, but they don't really know why it's important in our country, or Independence Day. So we start teaching that, and they'll learn the Pledge of Allegiance, the symbolic features and figures like the Statue of Liberty, and they'll learn things like their address. So make sure they know their address, their phone number, and they'll learn the difference between a street, a city, a state, and a country. Also, they do units on community helpers, where they get to learn about service workers out in the field. Now, as a parent, things you need to do when you're reading with your kids. So first off, you can help us with your little one by reading with your kids daily and allowing your kids to read to you. So as they're beginning to develop these literacy skills, you have a role in making sure that you are teaching your kids how to effectively interact with text. How can you do that? Questioning and prompting. The best way to get your kid to really engage with a book and really understand the text that they're reading and not just call out words is by the questioning that you use. And so some common question points that we use And we always tell the kids to look at the picture for picture clues or cues. And then, can you tell me what's happening in the story? And have them make predictions. So look at the pictures. What do you think is about to happen? How do you think that picture helped you figure that out? Can you tell me what happened at the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the ending of the story? Because essentially that's teaching them plot. And then we'll start teaching them that explicit vocabulary they're going to hear in the upper grades. Make sure you introduce the word author and illustrator. So who is the author and what does the author do? The author is the person that writes the story. The illustrator is the person that draws the pictures, because we start teaching them text features and things of that nature beginning in kindergarten. The other big thing that a lot of pre-K parents have an adjustment period with is homework. Our homework gets counted as true grades in kindergarten. Homework is nightly. Monday through Thursday, your kid will have homework Monday through Thursday in kindergarten. And we may give additional packets during spring break because they're getting grades. And if we see the need, then they might have work there. Kindergartners have projects. Sometimes they have to do oral presentations and bring in their little all about me posters and share out with the class to teach them beginning communication skills and presentation skills. And our students receive letter grades of S for satisfactory, N for needs improvement, and U for unsatisfactory on their report cards. Brookview also does our own progress reports that we send home, and we've switched from, initially it was going to be monthly, but now with everything, we're going to go back to the bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks, you guys will have progress reports so you know how the students are doing. Any questions with that? All right, so what assessments do your child take in kindergarten? Our kindergartners in the state of Georgia take the G-KIDS. That's the Georgia Kindergarten Inventory of Developing Skills. And that is like a huge, it's a one-on-one test that the teacher does or the parent does with the student with basic skills where they might have them assessed on, can they recognize their alphabets in capital letters? And then they'll have each alphabet and check off if the kid couldn't or couldn't. Do they know the letter sounds? Can they count to 100? So it's skill-based independent tasks that they're assessed on. And that helps guide our work with, okay, this kid needs help with this skill compared to this skill. We also do Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessment system. We call it BASS. And that is an assessment we give in the fall, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year. And that helps us determine the student's reading level. In kindergarten, we don't give that assessment until January because a lot of our kids come in non-reading. And if they're not reading when they come in, we can't assess yet. But by January, our kids are reading, so we're able to actually do an assessment to determine their reading levels. We also take iReady as our universal screener. This year we had iRead. iRead is going away for our schools. Our district has elected to do iReady for everyone. Before iRead was for the K2 and iReady was just third through 8th, but now everyone will be using iReady school-wide. So we'll do a diagnostic screener as soon as the kids get back in the fall to help us know exactly what they know so that we can plan our groups and our instruction from there. We'll do it again, and it's usually end of December, early January, and then we do it again. Typically, we would have done it again in May, and we will be able to show the child's growth for the whole year's time. We also have end of the unit math assessment. So at the end of their units, they take an assessment, and then our teachers give little weekly exit tickets to kind of know if they're moving to work or if there's something they need to go back and reteach because their kids didn't get it. Any questions as it related to that before I move into school discipline? So the biggest thing for discipline in pre-K versus kindergarten through 5th is in pre-K, an immediate suspension for up to 2 days could be made at any time to the pre-K provider, but no more than 5 days during that school year for a child. That's the rule. I can never suspend a 5th pre-K over 5 days. We don't do extended expulsions in pre-K because pre-K is their own little school within itself because they have guidelines because they're lottery funded. But when they shift to kindergarten, they're now under the same disciplinary as any other student in my building, which means the degree of discipline can be imposed by the administrator depending on the proportion of that behavior. So however severe that behavior is how that consequence comes. So if your kindergarten has a tantrum and decides to throw a chair, he can be suspended like any other kid. Now, we don't tend to do a lot of suspensions at the lower grades because we believe in progressive discipline at Brookview, but understand that there are consequences for the infractions starting in kindergarten. So we have what we call tiered infractions. So they're minor. So tier 1 is minor. Those are stuff that we can handle with supportive discipline. So I might call you and say, hey, I'm just letting you know I have such and such in my office. He decided he was going to fall out on the floor and cry and didn't want, because the teacher wouldn't let him be the line leader. Like, that's a typical kindergarten kind of nuance that happens in the beginning of the year. And so I'll give you a call, and this child might have to have a classroom remediation and or write a little apology letter, or we can do a classroom intervention where he had to do an office timeout, or she had to do an office timeout, and then we can send them back to class. And so the behaviors are listed on the left under the rules or offenses. So there's some things that are simple stuff that can be considered those tier 1s. Now, tier 2 is when they're starting to get progressively, those tasks are starting to repeat those behaviors, and it's progressing in nature to the point of could cause harm or cause a disruption to school. And so when we get to tier 2 offenses, we're talking about horseplaying, school-wide disruptions, if they decide to damage property at the school, break something, and those things that could be more serious but aren't extremely dangerous. This is when those suspensions start coming up. So when we're talking about timeout, we can do ISS, and we can also do up to 3 days of OSS, which is out of school suspension. This year coming up will be our first year where Brookview has a full-time ISS, in-school suspension personnel dedicated to keeping our kids at school and still providing instruction, but also giving them disciplinary consequences to support that. Our goal is not to send kids home. Our goal is to keep kids at school, but we need help with supports with these behaviors by teaching them now that if you do this, there's a consequence that could result in this. Now at tier 3, for kindergarten, now we're talking about up to 8 days of out of school suspension and ISS if those behaviors have gotten to the point of like theft or bringing a weapon. And sometimes little people get their hands on stuff that grown-ups have that shouldn't be there. So those consequences increase as we think about that. So I just want you to know that there are tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 behaviors, and we just need to make sure that you guys kind of talk to your kids and teach them about actions and consequences, because that's something that kind of shifts as they get to kindergarten. One of the biggest things is we tend to have horrible attendance in pre-K. The kids miss a lot of days out of school, and it's not as bad. But when they get to kindergarten, it's a big deal. So first off, I want to make sure that we know that attendance is a huge lift that I am pushing for our school. And there's research out the wazoo that shows that kids that attend school regularly and consistently every day perform better. So if an elementary school student comes to school every day on time and ready to learn, the research shows that they will read well by the end of 3rd grade. By middle school, they're going to pass their courses. By high school, they'll be on track for graduation. By college, they can earn their degrees. And as adults, then we have actual workforce development and they're successful at their jobs. Now, when kids miss too many days at school, whether it's excused or unexcused, it literally hurts them. And too many days is 10% of that school year. We come to school 180 days, 18 days of school, or even 2 days a month is too much. And that can knock a kid off track for their success for the future. So at Brookview, and this is really, really pushed at kindergarten through 5th, we have tiered attendance. Tier 1 is everybody. We have a whole thing. We want our kids to have less than 5 absences for the year. So we're striving for less than 5, and we're really going to push that. Once a kid gets to 3 unexcused absences, that's considered Tier 2, and the school starts sending those written notifications to parents, and then the social worker is involved. At Tier 3, when we get to 5 or more unexcused absences, you refer the families to the social worker. They determine if attendance is having an adverse impact on the student's academic performance. So if the attendance is impacting the kid and causing their grades to suffer, then that's a real issue. Now we can refer them to truancy intervention, which is through our court system. And that's called TIP. They're outside agency. At 10 or more unexcused, I am definitely referring kids to ERP and juvenile court. Because after 10 days, we know it's impacting the kids' academic opportunities. And 15 or more is now defects. So I want parents to be aware of attendance and why it matters, but most importantly, the outcomes. Now in Georgia, we actually have a compulsory attendance law that states that if after any student accrues 5 days of unexcused absences in the school year, that person or guardian who's in charge of that kid can be in violation. And those violations can result anywhere from $25 up to $100 or imprisonment not to exceed 30 days. Community service. So we want to make sure that we don't even have to worry about that, just making sure our kids come to school every day. So what your role is making sure that you are engaged. I cannot echo this enough. As a parent, your role is to be, I should know who you are and you should know who I am, and so should the teachers. The best way to do that is being visible and making sure that you access school-based resources via class link. We have it on our website. The kids know their lunch numbers and their date of birth, and they can access all of our tools for free that we give to our kids to use. Make sure you're doing that. We want your kids on iReady 45 to 60 minutes a week, in addition to what we do in school. In addition to it. So you have a role and a responsibility to making sure your kids get on iReady and iReady weekly. We want you to monitor your child's iReady usage and passage rates, and make sure you read with and to your child like we talked about. But here's the biggest thing, staying informed. And you'll stay informed because I communicate on a variety of levels, from calling posts to newsletters, email posts, text messages, and Class Dojo. So there's no reason that you don't know what's happening at our school. And then our teachers also communicate too. The thing is, make sure that you're checking it. Make sure you check those book bags when we get back in school. Make sure that you are paying attention and reading the documents that we're sending and listening to those calling posts when we send messages out. If you have the school blocked, unblock us, because that's my only way, especially right now with COVID, to be able to really communicate with you guys.
And a lot of things will come from me as well. So please don't get tired of the name Tamika Freeman. I apologize in advance. I love you, but we have to keep you all informed the best way we can. So we love you though.
Absolutely. So now we're going to open it up for questions, because I know I gave a lot of information, but it's a big shift from pre-K to kindergarten. Most definitely. Any questions for me?
It's a super simple one. I heard you say it. I just need to say it.
I cannot hear you.
Hold on.
I know that's Mr. James's voice, but
it's me.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, my question is just to double check, because Serenity is going to be coming from pre-K to kindergarten. She just needs her address, the most recent lease information.
Yes, sir. That's it.
You said that was 2 pieces or just the lease?
Two pieces of updated verification. So you can do a lease and a utility bill.
And where's this to be submitted?
To Ms. Fornes.
Done.
You can actually upload it on Infinite Campus in the parent portal to your under the census tab. But if you call or email Ms. Fornes, she can walk you through it step by step, and you can literally upload it digitally.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? You guys are
I'm
quiet.
also sharing the Brookview website. We keep it up to date constantly. So this is going to
Do
be
you
our
mind pulling it? Can you share your, can you pull it up and share?
I can try.
If not, so in case you did not know, we've updated a lot of resources for remote learning on our website, and we also have a Brookview YouTube.
Can you
So
see?
Ms. Freeman, go ahead and scroll down and show them where everything is, if you don't mind, please.
Okay.
And actually, will you click on the Banneker Cluster student belongings, and I can go through that really quickly?
Absolutely.
So for our cluster, and this is not, this wasn't on our agenda, but I want you to be aware. So beginning next week, I shared this at the parent meeting last week. We will have from 9 to 3 drive up option to come through the car rider line, where you can come and get any of your students' personal belongings. So what I've had teachers to do is to bag up each child's belongings, label it, and put it in boxes by homeroom. So you would just tell us your child's teacher's name, their name, and then we'll be able to get your belongings to you and bring it out to your car on the car rider line. So that'll be Monday through Friday next week from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Now, Wednesday will be a late option for those parents who need a later time. We'll keep it open from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. on Wednesday.
Okay, and I think M. Green has a question.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Ms. Green.
Sorry, I can't see the chat because I'm sharing my screen. I apologize, Miss Green.
I'm trying to go back up to see if I can see it. I'm not sure. Ms. Green, can you unmute and ask the question just because I don't know where it is? Freeman, can you, while she's doing that, show them where all our other links are for remote learning? All right, so if you look at our remote learning page and click on any of the grade levels, all of our Nearpods, everything is there. If they click on our kindergarten schedule, kind of keeping them in a routine, all of the remote learning that we've been doing. So you guys can access this now. And these still will be up over the summer. Go to the Nearpod code so they can kind of familiarize themselves with that.
I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are y'all doing anything with students? Like, I know they're not doing any like graduations or anything right now, but
I'm actually
like,
gonna pull that up for you as soon as she finishes. That was my last thing to share with you guys. Yes, ma'am, we are all next week actually. So you guys are gonna get that today. The teachers were still working on it, so I couldn't share it until I had all of the join codes and all the stuff that they needed. But we're doing a celebration week all next week for the kids, and we're doing a parade on next Friday. So I'm gonna talk about that in a second. So in our schedules are the codes that we have for Nearpod. So if you download the Nearpod app, you will have access to all of the kindergarten Nearpods that we did doing remote now. And you can start doing those Nearpods with your child and start looking at some of the kindergarten instruction that we did for students virtually. And that can give you a bigger lift. You mind just doing our YouTube real quick, Freeman? So we also have created a Brookview YouTube page, and it's on our website. A lot of parents don't know that it's there, but this is a great way for you to familiarize yourself and to just kind of see some of the instruction that we've been doing virtually. We're just waiting on it to load. Excuse us.
It's coming. I apologize.
No, no worries. It's still cycling, huh?
Okay, so it's
trying to get there. Oh, that's true. I don't have access to control your screen to do it.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. Unshare it, and when it comes back up, when it loads, then I'll let you reshare.
There
And
it
I'll
is. There it is. There it is. My apologies.
We don't see it. Yeah, okay, there it is. So parents, if you go to our Brookview, so look for our Panda, and then you go to our playlist or our video. So you can go to playlist for me, Freeman, and go click on your grade level. And videos and or playlists associated with your grade levels are there.
Hello, pandas. So today's tutorial is...
Okay, you can stop, Mr. Stevens.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
just to let you know, those are tools that we put in place as well for families. So just make sure you utilize it and check it out. And we plan on continuing that and making sure we keep it all throughout this, just because we don't know what to expect from now on. All right, so Ms. Freeman, if you'll unshare, I will now pull up the celebrations so that parents are aware of what's going on. And I'm getting ready to post this now. So every day this week, are you guys able to see my presentation? Do you guys see? Okay. Every day this week coming up, we will have something different for your kids to do to just to celebrate them. Number one, on Monday, pre-K is doing a virtual art show. So your teachers are going to send you a Zoom link. We do not want to post it on our website, so because I don't know if you've heard about Zoom bombings where strangers are like joining open public Zoom meetings and using inappropriate language. So we will be sharing the passwords and usernames with parents only, and you will be able to join them for their activity. So Monday is the art day. Tuesday, they're going to do a cooking demo via Zoom. And then the kids, they want you guys to engage in the art activity and share it with them. Wednesday will be a sing-along for pre-K. Thursday, our pre-K is doing a pre-K slideshow for you guys, and they'll send you join links. And then Friday, we are having our Panda Parade. Now, the Panda Parade has to follow social distancing guidelines. So that means it will be from the car. Parents will be allowed to drive up and drive through like we do for food distribution, and teachers will be spread out 6 feet apart with signs and posters to wave the kids off and say goodbye. So we're asking parents to line up at 2 o'clock. Say it again. I'm sorry, I thought someone said something. So we'll have parents to line up at 2 o'clock in their vehicles, and our teachers will be ready to wave and say goodbye or see you later to our babies, because we miss them too terribly, but we will be spread out 6 feet apart to make sure we're following social distancing. Everybody in our building, anyone on our campus has to have a mask on. So if you're in your cars, make sure that you come out with the following guidelines. If you are a walking parent, you guys will be socially distanced with masks on 6 feet apart, starting at the walker's gate. So just wanted to give you heads up that that's what we're planning on doing. But each grade level has their own things that they're doing. So if you have a kindergartner, they're doing their own movie time, their game day, and you should be getting invitations. The teachers are finished. I just approved every grade level, so they should be coming out within the next day or two, but I'm gonna post this for you guys to just be aware. So each grade level has their own virtual, some grade levels have done virtual field trips. They're having game nights in the evenings for families to enjoy. So just be on the lookout, but every single grade level has something special. And if you have a 5th grader who is transitioning to middle school, we are going to have a ceremony for them virtually with certificates and things because they're actually being promoted and leaving our building. So that'll be Thursday, May 21st from 11 to 12 o'clock. And again, we're inviting everybody to join us for that drive-through parade from 2 to 2:30. And I'll just have the guidelines to make sure that everybody understands that we have to do this so we won't have any issues.
I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What about like certificates for the students? Like when they finish, now they get like certificates or awards or anything like that? Are y'all doing that?
We are not doing an additional awards days. The grade levels have decided to do their own kind of situation. I'm trying to stop sharing. Okay. So every grade level, like pre-K is doing in their slideshow presentation, it's going to be a virtual slide, like certificate. I technically can get certificates to you. My teachers aren't in the building. So they don't have access to get the certificates, to fill them out, to sign them and all that stuff. So we're trying to be creative to think about that. And then we're talking about doing an award ceremony in the fall to celebrate the end of the year because we can't have large gatherings. Like we're just trying to think through all of that. But we can work on pre-K in particular. I know they have their own little kind of certificating thing. They're having their celebration that Thursday. That presentation and slideshow with their pictures and all that stuff. So they have their own little certificates that they've created that they would have done in their pre-K transition end of the year awards program. So I focused on pre-K and fifth for awards celebration, primarily because they are transitioning in the biggest way, either leaving the building or coming into now what we consider the traditional elementary setting. But we wanted to celebrate all kids in some capacity by doing at least family fun engagement whole school.
Okay.
Any other questions, guys? I hope this was helpful.
I'm so glad you all joined us, especially in the middle of the day. Thank you all so much. Also, I have sent the link for the evaluation. We are a Title I school, so as a requirement, we are required to have these transition meetings. So as evidence, we have to have the sign-in sheet. So if anyone needs the sign-in information, I will put it again. And we also have to have the evaluation to let us know how we're doing and what else we can do for you all. So we appreciate you all so much again.
If you are interested, or if any of you are interested in helping me with a planning committee for trying to transition back into the normalcy of school for the fall, please drop that in the chat as well, and I can be in contact with you guys as we're trying to get feedback and considerations from the parent perspective as to what will make you feel safe about coming back to school in the midst of everything going on. And any considerations that you think I need to make sure I'm thinking around. So if there are things that are like looming to you, that like, oh, what about this? Or how are we going to do this? Just kind of drop those questions or just your name. And then I can kind of have thought partnership because I want the thought partnership.
I have a question for you. And
yes, ma'am.
I might have joined in a little late. Forgive me, all emotional, essential worker here. I have Allstat and Serenity. As we're watching the news and as we're gathering the information, I know that you guys are definitely have our children number one priority. You know, I love the fact that you guys are not money hungry in regards to it and trying to get the kids back and, you know, just doing what you want to do because the governor just pretty much so left it free reign for anyone to do what they want. You know, you're seeing daycares open, you're seeing summer programs happening. And with this epidemic that's going on for a long time, it is false information that has been given to us in regards to who it affects and who it doesn't affect. With the new strand that's coming out, I'm noticing that it is starting to attack the children a little bit more than it is the adults. Is that something that, as Brookview, as a community, and I know that you have to fall under Fulton County's guidelines and with that, is that something that you guys are going to evaluate as far as the children coming back? Because at this point, they're saying that it's rash on the feet, it's rash on the hands, and all of this and the symptoms are different strands of the COVID-19. And for me, as an essential worker, like my husband literally has to stay home in order for one of us to work. And it's more money my way than it is his way. So, but it works because our children are able to stay at home. And with fall, as we all know, we've literally been quarantined for 30 days, and that's been a blink of an eye. And then the nail shops open back up. So as a concerned mother, I don't want to bury my child. I don't want to, you know what I mean? I don't want to have those concerns that, you know, we have the common cold or the common flu. And, you know, if they had a runny nose, if they had this, they had to go home. Are there going to be criterias that, you know, if we see this with a child, they have to go home?
Absolutely. So one of the things that our district is doing is that, number one, they're in close communication with the CDC.
Okay.
So our superintendent is meeting with them regularly, and we get updates as principals. I meet with the superintendent every Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for updates, because as things are changing, we have to change. Like, we already have 3 possible options for school openings for the fall. So our district is looking at either a return as a traditional opening, but with social distancing guidelines and metrics in place for masks. And I'm even considering the ordering. I kind of mentioned that earlier, but the ordering of the mask and making sure that our kids are safe. The second option is a blended model where to reduce the class sizes, and where half kids come on this day and others are at home working remotely, so that we can actually follow the social distancing, and the teachers alternate virtual and non-traditional, and then the other way would be all remote. So our district is preparing because we don't know which way this is going to go. As of now, summer school is supposed to be in July for elementary. So for us right now, they're considering a face-to-face blended model, right? If things change, we are prepared to go right back to remote.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
We are ready to change at the drop of the hat. I am thinking in terms of, because we don't know, I have to look from every angle possible for keeping our babies safe. I've already met with my custodial team. We've already ordered an overabundance of soap, paper towels, to make sure that we can wash our hands consistently, probably hourly. Sanitizer, making sure that we have everything we need in place, disinfectant, hospital grade, COVID, you know, like we've ordered. I'm receiving all of these materials now in attempts to just make sure that we're proactively thinking about the safety of the kids as well as the staff. Because my staff are parents too, right? And
amen. Look,
my child is right here. I get it. My 18-year-old has been busting his butt in the building like he works for me. Because I need help, and I can't have more than 10 people in the building, and I gotta do what I gotta do. So
yes, ma'am.
It's real, but I trust and believe that I'm having so many conversations, and later I'm even meeting with the mayor. The mayor and I have been talking, hence the church. So the church of Chapel Hill, how can we serve the community? Hence, we brought the COVID testing to the church.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, so
I'm right up the street. So yes, ma'am. That land has been long.
I'm definitely, because I care, and I know it's impacting our community
like nobody's business. Yes, ma'am.
And I know I have family members that are in the field like you and in those trenches. And in this whole time, I've been out on these Wednesdays doing food distributions in the trenches. And then, but initially we were 3 days a week. So I'm like, I have my mother at home myself, who's disabled, and I'm a caregiver full time.
See, yes, ma'am. Okay.
But I get it, and I understand it. So yes, ma'am, and that's why I want thought partnership. So if you're open to being a part of my committee, that we can kind of think through every part. Like, I have to think about assemblies and how we're going to do virtual assemblies so that I don't have congregations anymore. Because I used to do school-wide assemblies and bring in artists. Things will change. I have to think differently. Things will change, and how I would bring in all artists and career day. We had all those guests and Georgia Tech, and I'm gonna have to think differently.
The career fairs, everything that we did, like
everything, all my family engagement events might have to shift to a virtual platform. So I'm exploring opportunities of how can we still do something fun virtually, and what tools can I purchase to support that? What things can I do for K2 since we still don't have devices from the district yet? So I bought workbooks for every child so that I can give something in the fall if this happens to us, right?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just trying to think it through. But I need feedback, and I want feedback, and I want y'all to be transparent with us any consideration. What I will do, and Ms. Freeman and I, if we can tag team Freeman and create some kind of input survey, we'll drop it on our website for parents to just drop key considerations related to COVID and think about it. We can do it like the post-it that we put. We can add it to it. It's we'll add a tab. On our website, we have a feedback thing that you can leave feedback and how we're doing. We'll add a post-it on there where you can just add considerations. So parents, let us know things you want us to consider as we're planning for COVID. And you just kind of add it there, and then I can kind of use that as my talking too, as I'm talking to my district, as I'm talking to safety and security, as I'm thinking about all of these things. One thing I need to share with you guys too is I did do a grant soliciting. Oh, thank you, Ms. Freeman, for pulling that up. I did a grant soliciting support for MiFi hotspots for families that were struggling in this financially and don't have the means for internet, and trying to get us some devices for our lower grade. So we wrote a grant, sent it to the DOE. It was approved by the district. So now we got to see if we get it from the state. And if we do that, it help us out significantly in that area as well.
Congrats.
So we're trying, we're pushing it, and hopefully we'll get it, because now every district's trying to go for these grants, because all of us have, it's not just a Fulton thing, it's every district has schools in need.
Yes,
that have been hit hard with families in need. And if I could take away at least that burden by giving MiFis, that will be a device paid for through the district to cover the internet access for up to 5 people, or then you have multiple kids, they all could be on their devices.
Right.
You know, then that's something I could do in a small way. So we're just gonna keep trying for grants and try to get some companies. I've been meeting with T-Mobile, Sprint, these people that get our dollars. What are you doing for our schools? So just keep that in mind. We are thinking of, and our district is doing that too. Our district is doing a great job of advocating and getting these big companies to donate and get us the help for our schools.
Okay.
So guys, if there are any other questions, y'all just let me know, but I'm listening, and I'm always listening. So email, phone call, help me help and give me feedback. Miss Turner, I miss my little one. Tell her, hey, I miss all y'all's babies so bad. Y'all tell everybody. I don't get my little hugs and finger waves. I'm missing my kids.